Disaster resilience has been one of the pillars of mankind that helped us evolve our thinking along the way. From ancient times to the future, disaster resilience will always be a part of our lives in every single part of the globe. But what is disaster resilience? Disaster resilience is the ability of individuals, communities, organizations, and states to adapt to recover from hazards, shocks, or stresses without compromising long term prospects for development. This means the ability to recover from any problems without damaging any future plans. To show the effects of disaster resilience, we shall compare the past, present, and predict what may be the future using our information. The past was a time of many disasters. Events such as plagues to earthquakes completely decimated the land it comes in contact with, but human innovation helped ease the damages. Since disasters occur worldwide, we shall take multiple events, even though most of the past have been unaccounted for. One example were the ancient Bermuda people 300 years ago. They lived in one of the most hurricane-prone area, the Bermuda, a current British overseas territory. Every time a hurricane struck, the ancient houses made of wood and other material were decimated by these extreme storms. In response, the indigenous tribes made changes to their building structure. By using heavy massive reefs and limestone blocks as walls and roof tiled with thick slabs of coral stone, the new design of houses were more resistant to winds and rain than ever before. This type of structure moved on to become the traditional style of housing. Another example would be the Japanese age of the samurai community. Since the Japanese islands are located in the most destructive part of geology, the Ring of Fire. The Ring of Fire is the major area in the basin of the Pacific Ocean where many earthquakes and volcanic eruptions occur. In a large 40,000 kilometer horseshoe shape, it is associated with a nearly continuous series of oceanic trenches, volcanic arcs, and volcanic belts and plate movements. It has 452 volcanoes, out of which 10% are accounted for in Japan. This kind of destructive force can cause natural disasters such as tsunamis, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions. Furthermore, the above average rainfall in Japan can cause flash floods, mudslides, and more. All these disasters being deadly still have solutions. Before these solutions came myths. According to a popular Japanese myth, the cause of earthquakes is the giant fish Namazu, often depicted as a giant catfish in woodcuts called Namazui. He is considered one of the yokai creatures of mythology and folklore, causing misfortune and disasters. Only the god Kashima can immobilize Namazu with the help of a heavy capstone. He will push the fish against the foundations of the earth. However, the god sometimes gets tired or is distracted from his duty. Namazu will use these moments to wiggle his tail, causing an earthquake in the human world. In the Tokugawa period, from 1603 to 1868, the giant catfish was a river deity associated with floods or heavy rainfall. He acts often as a premonition for danger, warns people from an imminent catastrophe, or swallows dangerous water dragons, preventing further disasters. The dragon was a very old and powerful symbol, imported from China, and was considered the main culprit of many sorts of disasters, including earthquakes. To survive earthquakes, they built the Japanese Minka homes. They use light but strong materials and renewable materials which are also easily available to build most of their structures. As earthquakes are frequent, they use renewable and easily attainable materials to build and rebuild destroyed houses. Bamboo, paper, and wood were the most frequently used materials. The Japanese use light materials as most casualties occur not from earthquakes itself, but from heavy rubble and objects falling on people. The light materials prevent these from happening. To make earthquake-resistant havens, the use of wide and heavy eaves, disconnected floors, and shock-absorbing shinbashira were implemented to keep these structures upright and shock-absorbent. Japan is a wet country with 150 centimeters of rain annually. So to keep rainwater from running off buildings and onto the soil surrounding the foundation, potentially causing the pagoda to sink, builders extended the eaves far away from the walls, consisting of up to 50% or more of the building's total width. Builders employed a series of cantilevered beams to prop up the massive overhangs. Then, to combat the building's severe frameability, The eaves were then laden with heavy earthenware to prevent tinders from igniting the wooden structures underneath. Innovative thinking and technologies such as these have revolutionized the current society and have saved thousands of potential lives lost. Now let us look at how these decisions have affected our present. The present. Life-changing events such as deadly disasters that used to govern our lives in the past now do not do so. Disasters such as flash floods, earthquakes, and hurricanes can now be defended against.
This slope collapsed in 2011. The landslide blocked the river below and created a natural dam. The lake behind the dam has become bigger and bigger over time. If the dam bursts, the lake could turn into a flash flood, a threat for a village downhill. But securing the site takes time. In fact, it is so dangerous that the machinery is operated via remote control. So everybody here works hand in hand to prevent another disaster. The national government organizes construction tasks, the local government monitors new risks, and the community comes up with evacuation plans. Monitoring becomes the first step in preventing a catastrophe. Video cameras watch the site around the clock. Further downstream, a set of wires detects any sudden move of debris. Data are transmitted in real time to the emergency center. In the typhoon season, the center is staffed around the clock and can issue evacuation alerts. The village downhill will immediately be warned with sirens. This is the siren that warns us when the wires have been triggered. Residents will then evacuate into a dedicated evacuation center, a former temple that has withstood disaster for more than 100 years. Everybody here knows, historically, this is the safest place in the village. The population of the village is about 70 to 80 people. All residents can stay in this building. But the goal, of course, is to avoid landslides altogether, not only when building roads like this one. This concrete grid design can be found all over Japan and has helped to prevent many worst-case scenarios. It secures mountain slopes and is anchored deep into the ground. Part of a whole set of engineering techniques called SABO. I'll show you what happens when a mountain at risk of a landslide is not secured with this grid. And there's a second design that avoids disasters like this one, the so-called SABO dam, a staggered design of dams which will let water pass but traps rocks and debris. Without these dams, a little avalanche can transform into a large landslide. SABO also includes the terracing of rivers so the water flow will slow down, giving better protection in the rainy season. An overpass in Osaka is an example of best practice in disaster prevention. When the engineers planned this project, they made sure that SABO techniques, building dams, grids, water management, was part of the planning process. Neighboring landowners are being consulted on the design that would best prevent landslides. Structures are built to withstand major earthquakes. This bridge has giant shock absorbers made from specialty rubber. The material does not bounce and can almost fully absorb the energy of an impact. Water that passes down from the SABO dams will be channeled away by huge drainage pipes before it can create havoc. This drainage pipe is 2 meters wide and 35 meters long. The expressway is above. Disasters can happen anywhere and anytime, and Japan had more than its fair share of disasters. But good preparation makes sure there's always light at the end of the tunnel.
Along with the use of technologies, many national and international government bodies have created schemes such as the Department of Disaster Resilience in the Philippines, Organizations called Community Resilience Organizations (CROs), involving teams coming together to provide food, water, and shelter to communities in the need of natural disasters. CROs also assess the resilience of towns and communities, their strength and wells in need. Many countries have response teams like the Red Cross and others, which help communities struck by disasters by donating food, water, medicine, clothes, etc. Local governments also have plans ready for natural disasters and backup funds in case of emergencies. The current use of technologies such as AI and sensors help us to detect disasters before they strike. For example, buoys and AI out at sea are being used to track, detect, and predict tsunamis, and scientists also use high-level technologies such as ground-based, airborne, or satellite detectors to measure gas and heat emissions to predict volcanic eruption up to months before they erupt. Using this information, we can now predict the future of disaster resilience. The future. As exponential technologies grow, they help us improve our current way of life and discover new things. But what are exponential technologies? Any technology that grows exponentially following Moore's law are called exponential technologies. Some examples are microprocessors, AI, sensors, and many more. Based on previous experiences, it is very likely that the use of social networking services and development of smartphone applications for disaster risk and reduction show some of the greatest opportunities for civic awareness and public engagement, which has led to AI. AI is being brought into disaster resilience and are opening up paths for flood tracking on our own handheld devices such as through apps. More countries and areas are being educated on how to increase disaster resilience and decrease its effects, as education has been discovered to be a key in reducing vulnerability towards disasters. Furthermore, nanotechnology could be used in healthcare emergencies, 3D printing to be used on the spot to produce emergency equipment and prosthetics for humans. The use of advanced computing could help create new materials and methods to make buildings more resistant against natural disasters. The use of computer simulations using data science, sensors, and advanced AI to forecast any events around the world accurately are now being developed, therefore improving chances of survival and disaster resilience in the future.